Words like swell. Aha, and so's your old man. But if so, my friends, we got trouble. Right here in River City. With a capital T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool. We surely got trouble. Right here in River City. Remember the Maine, Plymouth Rock, and the Golden Rule.
Well, hello there. This past Tuesday, the 4th of February, 2020, Tuesday was the Iowa caucus and the resulting circus of politics and the popular media. As part of their rather breathless coverage, MSNBC took the time to speak with former political strategist James Carville. The result of that interview was, well, a really good example of how not to think. Let's take a look at the pertinent points from that interview and show just exactly how things can go wrong when you're trying to think on your feet.
If this isn't a mess in Iowa, as I said to Claire McCaskill, it'll do until the mess gets here.
Well, the other things that worry me, apparently the turnout in Iowa was not what I would expect it, other people would expect it. I know the numbers are still coming in, but people are telling me it's more like 2016, 2018. The polling averages have not been very good the last 10 days. And I've seen some pretty good polls that show enthusiasm among Democrats is not as high as we might like it. So there's something as people are watching this process that is concerning them. I do want to take the chance to congratulate Mayor Pete and his staff. That was a remarkable night that they had in Des Moines. But I think this is not going particularly well so far.
Mr. Carville has been asked a question, and his response is all over the map. I'm not sure at this point what point it is that he is trying to make. Is he trying to make the point that the Iowa caucus was a mess? Is he trying to say that the Democratic Party is a mess? Is our political process messed up? What is his point? He's dragged out claim after claim after claim in a furious gish gallop without stopping to give us any reason to believe any of these claims that he's made. He's offered neither proof nor evidence, just thrown stuff out there.
And why is Tom Perez still the chairman of the Democratic National Committee? I have no idea.
And he tops off the gish gallop salad with a rhetorical question. How nice. Asking a question, trying to make a point, I guess, but questions do not make points. They ask for someone else to make a point. If Mr. Carville has a point to make, he should say it. Let us know what it is. Rhetorical questions are cheap rhetorical devices best left for politicians, lawyers, and street corner preachers. Stop it.
This party needs to wake up and make sure that we talk about things that are relevant to people.
Apparently, Mr. Carville has not been paying very much attention to the campaigns recently, since the Democratic Party has been beating the drums almost constantly for major issues such as criminal justice reform, election security, affordable housing, income inequality, the minimum wage, paid leave, education, higher education and public schools education, student debt, teacher pay, campaign finance reform, reform of the Electoral College, voting for people who are in prison, nuclear energy, Green Energy Act, improving the situation for the farmers and improving the farm economy, helping the farmers cope with all the crap that's going on with them, especially with the industrial farms. We have also talked about gun control, assault weapons, background checks, reform of the health care system, trying to get single payer going on. We've also talked about immigration, infrastructure, military spending, the tax structure, taxing the wealthy appropriately, cutting a break for the poor, and on and on and on. Where the hell has this man been for the last 4 years?
We need to go back to 2018, where we had good, diverse, strong candidates that had real connections to the community and talked about real things.
And here we have what you call your false premise. Mr. Carville is ignoring the fact, or doesn't understand or doesn't realize that the current candidates are talking about real issues. How much more real do you have to get than the issues that we've just outlined?
We don't need to become the British Labour Party. That's a bad thing. It's not going well over there.
It would have been nice if Mr. Carville would have explained first what his grief is with the British Labour Party, and then had explained how and in what ways the Democratic Party is similar to or like the Labour Party. But it is a nice false equivalent to add to the pile.
So Democrats, and now I want to see these candidates, and Mayor Pete's got something going. Hopefully Senator Warren can become that student at the University of Houston, that single mother that knows that plights that people go through. Who knows? Maybe Mayor Mike can come on. But right now,
no sooner does Mr. Carville cavil about real issues than he diverts to Elizabeth Warren should talk about something totally irrelevant to today's issues. Her past, her time as an undergraduate, has no bearing on today other than addressing student debt.
I got to tell you, I'm not very impressed. Without power, there's nothing.
Perhaps this is the point that Mr. Carville has been trying to get around to, that politics is all about and only about power, getting power, acquiring power, keeping power. That's great. To what end?
There's only one moral imperative in this country right now, and that is to beat Donald Trump.
If only it were that simple. This is a very good example, folks, of simplistic reasoning, trying to narrow complicated, complex, and multiple issues into one single issue, ignoring all of the other stuff. That may play well, and it may work well in River City, but it doesn't work for the rest of us.
That's the only moral imperative. It's the only thing I want to hear.
Attacking Little Donnie Two Scoops personally like that is not a winning approach. All it does is enliven and anger his base and drives more and more of them farther and farther to the right, drives them to the voting booths, and keeps him in power. The better approach is to ignore his ass. It drives him crazy to be ignored. Remember, any publicity is good publicity as far as he is concerned. What the candidates need to do is focus on the issues, talk about the issues, avoid mentioning Two Scoops, the maggots, and all of the stuff on the far right. Talk about the issues and only the issues.
Until we understand that, we win every argument, Brian. We win an argument on anything. We don't win elections because we talk about stuff that is not relevant.
Mr. Carville seems not to have paid attention to the last several presidential elections. Secretary Clinton lost because of poor campaign strategy, thinking that she had it in the bag, and hiring incompetent campaign staff. Vice President Gore did pretty much the same thing. Thought he had it in the bag, and his arrogance cost him the election. The thing to do is to see how and why President Obama won election. He did it by not following the standard corporate Democrat campaign model. He went where he wasn't supposed to go, where he thought he might not win. He campaigned to the people, not to some tired, worn out, dead, old strategy that has failed time and time again.
We had a great experience in 2018, and the day after, we started all this goofy stuff.
Yet another false premise. What Mr. Carville says proves that he has not been paying attention. That goofy stuff, as he calls it, is why all of those people won all of those elections and won their positions, by addressing the issues, not playing the old corporate game.
So hopefully we got time to jerk this thing back and be about health care and prescription drug prices and education and infrastructure and climate and diplomacy and rejuvenating, whatever it is.
Somebody find the rock that this man has been living under, move that rock, steal it, hide it, let him see the light of day, and somebody clean out his ears so he can listen to the leading candidates and listen to them addressing the issues that he just listed. This is another false premise, a whole bunch of false premises on top of a red herring.
But this is not happening so far. And we can't act like this is going well. We can't come out and put 3 wonderful talking points.
If someone knows where Mr. Carville got that marvelous 3 talking points business from, please let me know, because it has neither correspondence nor coherence with what the top Democratic candidates have been saying for months.
We need to, these campaigns have got to be more relevant. For God's sake, Senator Warren, get real out here, and you know, let's move this thing along. Well, I'll get behind, but of course I vote for him. They don't have no choice. But look at the British Labour Party. I mean, we're like talking about people voting from jail cells.
Attention, Kmart shoppers. We have a 4-for-1 special going on right now. We have a false analogy, a false equivalence, a straw man, and a category error. Apparently, Mr. Carville is not familiar with the parts of the Constitution which guarantee that every citizen of the United States has the right to vote. There are no qualifications on that, not by sex, gender, race, religion, creed, or conviction.
All right, we're talking about not having a border.
No one is talking about having no borders. What we're talking about is immigration reform, so that people who earnestly and truly want to be here and become United States citizens can do so freely and openly, as has been the case in the past. Mr. Carville is doing a wonderful job here of reiterating the far right wing's stalking points. Great job, guy.
I mean, come on, people. Every day people are out there struggling. We're trying to get votes in northern Wisconsin and
You're
western
saying
Pennsylvania.
you're concerned that you consider Bernie Sanders for open borders and for incarcerated people voting? Is that what
he said that we should give people a ticket.
This is the worst and most reprehensible kind of a straw man ever. Perhaps I'm prejudiced in this. I'm an old guy. I'm from Florida. I remember all of the refugees fleeing Castro's Cuba. Would that be open borders? Apparently, Mr. Sanders saying, give them a chance, is open borders. So Mr. Carville would send all of those Cubano refugees back where they came from. I don't think so, people. That's not what our nation is supposed to be about.
Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more, pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more.
I don't know why she decided to chase Bernie's left tail all over the country and became known for some exotic positions, let's say that, to put it mildly. And if she can get back to what she's about, now, I know her not well, but she's a very smart, obviously she's very smart. I think she understands what's happening in the country, but you can talk about, what you talk about is your choice. And I just hope that she gets back to talking about being that afraid single mother, going to the University of Houston, working and knowing the struggles that people go through, and not be so technocratic or programmatic or anything else, but say, I have the skill to put this to work.
Think back to earlier in Mr. Carville's presentation here. Remember how he was talking about, we need to focus on the issues, we need to focus on the issues, on the issues, on the issues. And now here he is advising Senator Warren not to focus on the issues, but rather to focus on her background, where she came from, and presenting herself as poor working class girl. Well, she is no longer a poor working class girl. She has pulled herself up by her bootstrap. Presenting an argument based on the origins of someone or something is what we refer to as genetic fallacy.
You know, to improve your life. And I think that would be good. I love her daycare plan. I mean, she has some things that she can do. She's got a second win here. She better, she's got to get serious.
Of all the things that Mr. Carville said, this has to be the most patronizing and condescending of all. It seems as though he hasn't bothered reading any of her policy statements or any of the plans that she's worked on. If he had read them, if he had listened to what she has been saying, he wouldn't have said 90% of the things that he said during this interview. In sum, Mr. Carville has given us a wonderful example how not to think about politics and political strategy, especially from the Democratic viewpoint.